Hello and welcome to YTV. I'm Danielle Trubow.
And I'm Lily Fast. $20.8 billion is where the current Yale endowment lies after its 12.5% return was announced last Tuesday. This is the highest the fund has been since 2008 when it peaked at roughly $22.9 billion. The fiscal year ended in June and put Yale at the top of the Ivies in terms of returns.
Yale outshined Harvard and MIT, but was behind UPenn's 14.4% return. Yale's annual target endowment return is approximately 7.5%, and each additional 1% adds about $2 million to the overall university budget. Just where exactly will this money go? YTV will keep you updated.
Ever been bombarded with countless emails about various Yale events? Well, this is now a problem of the past. The Yale College Council just reconstructed its boards to heighten efficiency and transparency between our government and the student body.
The changing of presidencies is not the only political change Yale is undergoing this year. YCC, Yale's very own college council, has restructured themselves to make better use of time, plan more events, and give the students more of a voice within its government.
This year, YCC introduced several new committees: YCC Business Team, Events Committee, Production and Design Team, and Programming Team.
If you look at the different projects we're doing and all the different services that we provide to students, at the end of the day, if they don't know about it, then we didn't do much. And we have 40 elected representatives and associate representatives on the council that do a lot of hard work. And now we have a much more efficient way to disseminate that information to the student body. So we have photographers, graphic designers, and video producers that work on YCC now.
With the committee's aiding efficiency, YCC is tackling major projects this year, like its comprehensive campus calendar. Now students can stay updated with events without having to sit through countless emails.
So we just launched a centralized campus calendar that we're very excited about. So it's one source that people can get information on all different events that are happening on campus. And the production and design team, for part of that launch, worked on producing this fun video to sort of hopefully make students more aware, and also on different posters that are around campus now.
For more information on YCC's newest projects and upcoming events, visit their website at www.ycc.yale.edu. This has been Lily Rivkin, Joseph Vincent, and Kathy Cavaldi, reporting for YTV. Back to you.
The campus calendar is the YCC's latest online initiative after its recent website redesign. We hope the campus calendar was helpful this past weekend as you made plans with your family.
Yale may be that much closer to welcoming 2 more residential colleges onto its campus. Having only secured $200 million for the project, the administration has been quiet on the state of recent funding for the residential colleges. But sources and alumni now believe a large donation towards the project will be announced sometime soon.
Yale's administration expects it has roughly $300 million more to go. Architecture School Dean Robert Stern believes the supposed donation will go toward the remaining $300 million. While Dean Stern does not believe this will cover the entire outstanding balance, it could mean the university will finally break ground on the massive project.
Near the future site of those new colleges, a group of Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies students has introduced a new speaker series to campus. Interested in hearing your professor talk about more than just his or her latest research? We go to Alero Egby for more about how the What Matters to Me and Why series arrived at Yale and what it means now that it's here.
What Matters to Me and Why invites prominent members of Yale's community to reflect on their values and priorities. The program was introduced to Yale last spring, but began almost 20 years ago at Stanford.
In universities, we can easily see the world of the mind, people being smart, people knowing things, but the issues of values, the issues of humanity, those issues don't necessarily come up.
He was inspired to start a series that brings the school community together to reflect on personal values and achievements. What Matters to Me and Why has since spread to the University of California, Irvine. Former Stanford undergrad and Yale forestry student Lauren Graham brought the program here to Yale just a few years ago.
Successes and more open dialogue about the failures. And I thought that What Mattered to Me and Why would be something that could create a space and a forum where it would be acceptable to talk about those kinds of questions.
The series' most recent speaker, Timothy Dwight Master Jeffrey Brenzel, compared professional credentials to personal measures of success and achievement. The talk particularly motivated Gregor Hintler, a new co-head of the group.
I think this personal transformation or this personal experience is something that's very unique and I really enjoyed hearing.
Past speakers include Yale Law School professor Stephen Carter and Commissioner Danielle Esty. Upcoming speakers include Dean of Forestry, Karen Cito, Forestry Professor Gus Speth, American Studies graduate student Lauren Meyer, and a member of Yale's World Fellows program.
Listening to people who've already been through their life's journey and who've seen a lot of things in life, and to be able to relate with them and to be able to clear stuff up for yourself.
This new Yale program, headed out of the Forestry School, promises to be both entertaining and inspiring.
Thank you, Alero. The next event in the What Matters to Me and Why series will take place in mid-October.
And this past week brought major changes to 3 of the residential colleges. On Monday, Silliman Dean Hugh Flick announced his resignation after a 26-year tenure. On Tuesday, Timothy Dwight Dean John Loge announced that he will step down after a 23-year tenure. And on Wednesday, Calhoun College Master Jonathan Holloway announced that he will be stepping down after nearly 8 years as the college's master.
The scholars and administrators who will be replacing these beloved deans and masters will be announced later this year. So for now, we say good luck to these 3 faculty members and stay tuned for updates on the new appointments.
Recently, a new sport arrived on campus: archery. The sport had existed at Yale in the past, but it declined due to lack of student interest. Now, a unique club is reviving this age-old pastime. We take you to Rebecca Delman and Ezreal Gelbish for more information. Rebecca?
Thanks. 2 archery clubs have existed at Yale in the past, but have failed to sustain funding and membership. Sophomore Harrison Miller, however, has now revived the club and hopes that this incarnation of it will stick.
When I came to Yale, I was like, archery is a must. This is one of my biggest passions. I can't let it die. And so I recruited an amazing team of officers, and we were able to bring it back.
Partly due to portrayals in the media, archery has gained exposure as a pastime, and now as a club sport at Yale.
Yeah, I think that since the advent of the Hunger Games, like with Katniss, everything, it's become a very popular sport.
But archery's appeal lies not only in the bow and arrow, it extends to the mental focus that is required to wield it.
It is totally a mental energy thing. I mean, like so much of it depends on, being in the zone and being able to just kind of like concentrate all your energy, just kind of tune out everything else.
This fall, students in the archery club meet every Saturday for practice. The sessions allow archers to improve their shooting in a community of encouraging teammates.
We're really passionate about something together, and I think that drives us together, and we're able to help each other for, things that are far beyond just the scope of archery.
The club hopes to expand as a resource for new archers as well as a Yale team that can compete on a national level.
This is going to be a permanent club, and we're going to start competing, and I'm very sure, I'm positive that we're going to have Olympic archers coming out of Yale University.
I think archery is a metaphor for life, actually. You have a goal that everyone's trying to hit, but each person does it in a different way. Each person has his or her own unique approach. And in the end, you collaborate, you share techniques and tips to try to attain that physical goal.
While it's unclear what lies ahead for archery, its existence today welcomes versatility within Yale sports and serves as a resource for both aspiring and professional archers.
Thanks, Rebecca. Archery provides an interesting addition to Yale's extracurricular activities. To learn more or to get involved, visit Yale Archery on Facebook.
And the curtain fell this last Thursday at the Yale Repertory Theater, presenting Tennessee Williams' most famous play, A Streetcar Named Desire. The play, which premiered on Yale's campus at the Shubert Theater 66 years ago, will showcase the talents of True Blood's Joe Manganiello and Yale 96 drama graduate Renee Augustin. Mark Rucker, another graduate of Yale School of Drama, is directing. Get your tickets fast as the show closes in 2 weeks on October 12th.
Most Yale students walk by a world-class art gallery every single day, and many of them don't take the time to go through its front door. However, the gallery has recently been reopened and expanded, making the viewing experience even more breathtaking. These renovations have enabled the gallery to house temporary exhibits that are now open to the community. Halsey Robertson went inside the gallery for more on this story. Halsey?
Thanks, guys. The newly renovated gallery, which reopened February 1st, can now house new exhibits that are getting attention from both within Yale New Haven and across the country. Renovations began over 10 years ago, and now the gallery is more than ready for people to enjoy current exhibitions such as Red Groom's Larger Than Life, Still Life, 1970s Photorealism, and more.
A review from the New York Times claims, "There's a wild, wild party going on at the Yale University Art Gallery these days." The two new exhibits, which are next to each other, are physically and artistically connected, despite first impressions.
I think it's an interesting juxtaposition. It basically draws on two of the key collections of contemporary work that have been gifted to the gallery in the past few decades. The Red Groom's show draws a lot on gifts from the Charles B. Bennington collection, and the Photorealism show draws a lot on works from Richard Brown Baker's collection. That I wouldn't say is necessarily the reason they're together. I think it's an interesting juxtaposition. I think they're really different, which is probably good because they do kind of abut. So there's no kind of confusion about which show you're in if you're going from one to the other.
Residential colleges have made an effort to get freshmen to see the new renovations. Freshmen were hosted on September 6th with the aim of exposing freshmen to Yale's artistic resources.
I'm a freshman this year, so this is my first time seeing the art gallery, but I was very impressed by it. I still am. It's beautiful inside. The curating is really great. And all of the pieces in there are really beautiful, and I enjoyed spending time looking at everything.
Art Gallery Director Jock Reynolds reveals his original goals with the renovations as well as his aspirations for the new exhibits.
Well, since we opened the galleries, expanded and renovated and reinstalled galleries on essentially 12-12-12 last year, it's just been 400% increase in attendance. It's been remarkable. The critical reviews, I think everybody knows, have been sensational and very exciting to us. There's been a tremendous increase in attendance of students and use of the gallery by faculty in classes. So that's actually is our primary purpose, being a teaching museum. It thrills us no end. So we're delighted, and it's met every expectation we've had and exceeded anything we hoped for it over these last 15 years of just slow, hard, disciplined work to get this job done. So we're a very happy, a little bit tired, but delighted crew to be at this point in time where we are.
Curator for Red Grooms, Lisa Hodomarsky, says, "We think this is the type of exhibition that casts a wide net and will appeal to visitors from age 2 to 92. Our constant aim is to display our collections and mount temporary exhibitions so as to appeal to our entire public." These new exhibits are bringing new people and new life into the renovated galleries. Students have until March to check out these beautifully contrasting exhibits and even longer to see the rest of the renovations.
With the amount of work put into the UAG, it's not surprising how much attention it is receiving. If you're interested in finding out more information on the gallery or its exhibits, visit artgallery.yale.edu.
At schools across the country, the average college athlete enters freshman year prepared to live with a teammate. However, Bulldog athletes arriving to Yale for the first time never know exactly what to expect from their suitemates, leading to an experience unlike many others in college athletics. For more, we go to Kevin Kucharski.
This is the Wildcat Coal Lodge, home of the University of Kentucky men's basketball team. The 20,000 square foot dorm, opened in 2012 at a cost of over $8 million, includes lavish tributes to Kentucky basketball, flat screens detailing the team's daily itinerary, and constant reminders of the program's history. The Coal Lodge allows the Wildcats to live alongside one another and forces them to stay focused on basketball every second of the day. This represents a stark contrast to the world of a Yale athlete. Unlike most Division I schools, Yale and its Ivy League peers have a policy of fully integrated living among athletes and non-athletes.
I have friends that play Division I sports, specifically soccer, all over the country, and I know that they basically just hang out with their team all the way through, and they're not really a part of their campus community. That's not how we do things here at Yale. It's pretty cool.
In 1996, the NCAA took steps that made all Division I schools a little more like the Ivy League when it banned athletic dorms. In an attempt to curb special privileges for athletes and more closely connect them with the rest of student life, the NCAA mandated that at least 50% of any wing or floor of a dorm consist of non-athletes. In the Wildcat Coal Lodge, this means that 16 regular students live alongside the 16 members of the basketball team, meeting the minimum requirements of the NCAA. Across Division I schools, most athletes are living in similar circumstances.
So outside the Ivy League, it was almost exclusively living with teammates.
I have a friend from high school who runs at Illinois,
and his roommate his freshman year was on the team. They all lived in the same area.
All of the facilities that you use are all the same. So I ate in the athletic dining hall, which is in the stadium, and we had tutoring all together, all the athletes.
I was concerned in some other schools where the coach just said, like on the official visit, the coach said outright, you will be living with your teammates, you will be with them like 24/7, you will eat with them, you will literally like sleep in the same room as them. It's you don't get a break.
But at Yale, athletes are distributed among the residential colleges, giving them a more diverse experience than their counterparts at other Division I schools.
We had some athletes. We had guys in theater groups.
We had a girl who was really interested in a cappella, a girl who did a lot of IM sports, a girl who was in an orchestra.
Last year, I think each of my freshmen was, one of their suite mates was from a foreign country. So the experience of that alone is terrific.
Even though Yale athletes don't live with their teammates, they still spend upwards of 30 hours a week with them competing, traveling, practicing, and studying film. For most athletes, coming back to suites of non-athletes offers a chance to unwind away from the competitive atmosphere that they spend so much of their time in.
You're spending probably 4 hours a day with the guys on your team every day, both in season and out of season, so you see enough of those guys, really.
We spend every single second with each other, and I think as a freshman it's kind of nice to be able to spend all that time with your team, but then be able to go home to a completely different group of friends and get to know more people that way.
When you meet friends that are not involved in the things that you do, it's nice to have that sounding board, nice to have that support that isn't exactly your team.
This arrangement is beneficial not only to the athletes, but also to the health of the team.
If you have people who are constantly training together, studying together, living together, it's very easy for people to fall into a kind of a cycle. That can sometimes be a very fulfilling experience, but it also has, I think, the potential to go bad and actually end up inhibiting the chemistry of the team.
It could either bring us together closer as a team because we'd be spending much more time together, or honestly, we could get sick of each other. Going from class to the gym, hard practice, to dinner, back to the dorms together. I think honestly, spending that much time with anybody might just kind of, maybe even separate you.
Yet the strongest Division I programs keep athletes and teammates together.
The SEC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, they're going to have their athletes room together because they're getting up early to work out. They're trying to get them to eat together in a more healthy environment. They're trying to work it so it's it's kind of a job in a sense.
The scheduling component is what most often causes housing problems for Yale athletes, who generally have to go to bed and wake up much earlier than their non-athlete suite mates.
There was definitely a good number of instances where there would be people in my room late at night and I'd have to wake up at 5 a.m. the next morning.
The real biggie is waking up. Morning workouts are typically 6 a.m. And so you want to be able to put someone in a room together that doesn't mind getting up at 5:30.
However, not all athletes face this problem. Trumbull College houses its freshman athletes together. While their performance may benefit, they run the risk of being isolated from the rest of the students in their year.
My roommate is one of the quarterbacks for the football team, and we're both in the fall season, so our first semester here we were pretty nose to the grindstone, taking care of the sports side of things first, and I think it helped living with someone who understood that.
I wouldn't say that it had negative social effects as one might imagine. You're still eating together, you're still in the same building, you're still hanging out together.
I think it's easy to kind of segregate yourself. A lot of athletes' friends are in the same kind of bubbles with each other, so you might not really branch out and be meeting a bunch of different people.
Whether other residential colleges should implement a similar policy or not is up for debate.
It's really good for the athletes to get some of that adversity at sometimes of having to deal with people that aren't necessarily your best friends and making it work. And that's life. And I think they get a good sense of that early on here.
One coach has taken extra steps to keep his team mixed in with the rest of the student body. This past year, Tony Reno, head coach of the football team, instituted a policy that requires his players to live on campus their junior year.
The piece of it is that they get a chance to get away from that. Get away from football, get away from the athletic mold, and be able to be a true student. And I think that's a nice balance for them. I think in the end, it's going to really make them a better student and a better athlete.
For several members of the athletic community, this sentiment rings true.
People in my suite are almost entirely outside of my social circles. If I had been living with my team, I think it would have been very restricted, very just kind of insular.
When I was a freshman, and even last year, not living with only football players, I think it was good to come back and just hear what else is going on and just know there's stuff going on outside of just your own sport.
The connection between the two groups never fades, but as athletes move through their Yale career, they tend to spend more time with their teammates and often move off campus to live with other athletes. However, some students suggested that this is true of anybody involved in extracurricular activities at Yale.
If you look at any extracurricular group that's more not only based on like a team aspect, but also has a large social component, you're going to be drawn to that activity. Whether it's your dance group, your a cappella group, you hang out with the people that you do things with.
Of course, you're going to see athletes hanging out together, but if they're on the same team, it's because they're on the same schedule, that, they have the same interests, they can, talk to each other about things that they know about.
Even though the residential college system does not always create lasting bonds between athletes and non-athletes, it does help address common misconceptions between the two groups.
There are stigmas attached to the sports teams that maybe aren't necessarily fair, and by getting incorporated within the student body, you get to make some friends and maybe do away with some of those negative stereotypes that we sometimes encounter.
It's much harder to criticize your friends than it is to criticize someone who you've never met, who you've never seen.
Housing is just one aspect of student life, but it has far-reaching effects on sleep, happiness, behavior, and social life. Where the competitive edge lies is difficult to say, but it is clear that housing makes being a Division I athlete at Yale a truly unique experience. For YTV, this has been Kevin Kucharski reporting.
While the policies of most residential colleges concerning athlete housing are set by tradition, Yale's 2 new residential colleges will have the opportunity to decide how to approach this issue. Thank you, Kevin.
As always, we leave you with our Everybody Has a Story segment. This week, Cody Pomeran sat down with Rabbi Jim Panett, the Howard M. Holtzman Jewish chaplain at Yale. In 2010, he was launched into the national spotlight as the co-officiator of the wedding between Chelsea Clinton and Mark Mezvinsky. After more than 3 decades of being a religious leader at Yale, Rabbi Panett will retire from that position at the end of the academic year. Here are a few highlights from that interview.
Rabbi Panett, thanks for joining us.
Cody, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So, 32 years. You've been here since 1981. Did you foresee that you would be here this long when you first arrived at Yale?
Great question. I came with a full expectation to be here 3 years. I did think that within those 3 years I would help Yale gain a Center for Jewish Life. There was no facility. I was in a basement office, the basement of Bingham Hall. There was a house. It's now SAE, but that had been known as the Rabbi's House from 1965.
The purposes have changed.
Yes, indeed. And there was a basement in 305 Crown Street, which was known as the Kosher Kitchen. And this was the topography of Jewish life at Yale. So for at least 3 years, in fact, for 10 years, after 10 years, it began to occur to me that maybe we were not going to go back to Israel. We'd come here directly from Jerusalem, where we had lived for 8 years. But for a good 10 years, I kept thinking, soon we'll go back. In fact, we had an apartment in Jerusalem and so forth. So it's, to me, a good example of, the way we've lived our life. Is that plans are useful, but don't fully believe them.
Well, let's start at the beginning, before you had the plan. So you, I understand, entered college not nearly as religious as you are now. You had somewhat of indifference towards Judaism. What made you change? What experience enchanted you with Judaism?
I think the truth is that I had a deep interest in religion and in spirituality, but that I didn't and hadn't found it in my own experience of Judaism growing up. I had been bar mitzvahed in a Reformed temple, but I hadn't found that experience to be as deep as that for which I yearned. So I came to Yale as a French major, and after 2 years studying French, I decided all that I really cared about was God. My first year in Israel was the first time in my life that I was totally happy with the privilege of being a Jew. Up until then, I was not so certain that it was so good to be a Jew. But when I saw the depth of the linguistic depth, the landscape depth, the human depth of the mystery of what it is to be a Jew as manifested in the complexity of Israeli society, I said to myself, this is as good a way of being a human being as anybody can find, and it's mine by birth. And so I embraced it.
One thing that I think a lot of students talk about is this idea of exploration and learning. even things that you may not subscribe to or agree with. You've been, very keen on taking an interest in other faiths and lessons from other faiths. And I was just wondering, what benefit do you think on a religious journey that people take, maybe as students or later in life, what benefit do they get from looking at other faiths and taking lessons from them?
Oh, it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. I think we are really privileged to live in an era of openness, of where there is happening right now in many quarters, including on our campus, a conversation among the world religions. Now, interfaith dialogue 50 years ago was about, I'll tell you what it is to be a Jew, you tell me what it is to be a Christian. I will refrain from asserting or trumpeting those elements of my religion that seem to suggest that I got it right and everybody else has it wrong. We're way beyond that now. We are now at a place where I can go to a Christian, and I've done this. Not that my Christian counterparts are always able to reciprocate, but they do exist, and to say, you know something about the intimate spiritual relationship that a person can have with a figure like Jesus, who serves both as a mediator of God for you, or perhaps you see God in the human form. I want to know more about how you relate to Jesus. Is there such a thing as spiritual friendship? When you think about Jesus, do you adduce an image? Do you hear a voice? I can go to a Buddhist and I can say, I know that you don't believe in God, and yet I see that you think compassion is really important. What is the ground of compassion as you understand it? Is forgiveness an obligation or an opportunity? How do you understand forgiveness? What about peacefulness? So I feel that they can come to me and say, well, what does it mean to live with a religious discipline? Why do Jews care about the world? Buddhists have a theory of the bodhisattva who returns to the world, even though he's got an option to get off the wheel of life and death. Why does a Jew stay in the world? Why are Jews so worldly? I think Christians and Buddhists have what to learn from us, and we have much to learn from them. So I take it from every quarter. It was no religion has it all right. Maybe the reason there is a plethora of religions is maybe even analogous to why there are a plethora of languages. Not simply to create confusion and competitions for who has it right, but rather to get a richness, depth, a deeper texturing of what it is to communicate, what it is to be human.
Rabbi Panett, thanks for joining us.
Cody, it was a real pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us as always. For YTV, I'm Cody Pomerantz, and this has been another segment of Everybody Has a Story. Back to you in the studio.
To watch the full interview, go to YaleDailyNews.com/YTV under the features page. And thank you for watching YTV. Danielle and I are signing off for the last time as we turn it over to the YTV board of 2015.
We leave you with a few of our best moments from this past year. So join YTV next Sunday because it's your Yale, your week, and your news.